Hello and welcome back, Squirrel Nation. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today's video is going to cover hero counters. I've broken it up into two phases. The first phase is going to be kind of more theoretical and breaking down what makes a good counter, and the second phase is going to be me giving popular heroes, and then I will give you the heroes that I think counter them and the different attributes that I think make good counters. So before we begin the main topic, I just want to say thank you all so much. The channel finally hit 500 subscribers. This was a major milestone for me. The next one will be 1,000. But anyways, a while ago, I announced I will do a giveaway when I hit 500 subscribers. So these are the three winners. If all you have to do is just reach out on me. Two of you I know are on the Discord, so just hit me up on there and we'll discuss what you guys want. And then Mateen Ahmad, just reach out to me either on YouTube, Discord, wherever. You can also just email me, but just reach out to me and I'll link up with you too. So that's to give out the rewards. And otherwise, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I kind of just started this as a hobby. It was something that I wanted to do just to kind of help the community. When I started, A Brown Bag was still making his videos, and he stopped doing it right when I started playing the game, and I just kind of wanted to fill in that role because he was so helpful to me when I was a new player. So that's kind of what inspired me to start, and it really means the world to me that you guys have been subscribing and supporting the channel so much, and I just really appreciate it. And yeah, I could go on and on, but I'll end there. So anyways, with that said, let's dive into the main chunk of the video. Okay, so here we are at the main section of the video. We're going to discuss 1v1 duels because they heavily pertain to winning the early game or winning the laning phase. Okay, so the three things that I think matter the most are class counters, power curve, and outplay potential. Class counters are simple. Warriors beat assassins, assassins beat marksmen, marksmen beat warriors, right? This is in general, but anyways, it's something good in your mind. When you see, if you're playing DS lane and it tends to be warriors, then they're right, and your enemy DS laner plays an assassin. If you play a warrior, you probably are going to get an edge from playing that warrior, right? These rules can be broken. We'll discuss that later in the video. Power curve. So there's three main things that I think about when thinking about a power curve. Itemization, so Violet's a good example. Early game, Violet is quite weak because she doesn't have the items she needs to have heavy burst, but late game she becomes a beast and she can just combo people dead. Like one combo, roll, shoot, boom, you're dead, right? But she needs items. So Violet scales very well with items. Then you have heroes who scale well with levels. So Jinnar scales very well with levels. So if he gets to level 4 and gets his ult, that is big damage for him. And just the fact of him leveling up his skills actually gives him a nice amount of damage. But he actually doesn't scale off of items that well compared to other mages. So if you look at his ultimate, for instance, it doesn't scale nearly as well as like Natalia's ultimate. Okay, so that's levels. Game phases, this is the one that's not mentioned as often, but I think is also very important to understand, is the reason that Batman falls off late game is because the game changes, okay? So early game, what happens is people are farming, they're all solo in their lanes, right? Dragon lane, maybe you're duo laning, but anyways, in general, all the lanes are soloing, people aren't really looking for team fights, so it's easy for Batman to pick people off when they overextend, okay? But later in the game, people are now roaming around in groups, and it becomes much harder for Batman to get on the squishies and get kills, right? So people are in packs, but then also itemization, people have built more defense and built more the tools they need to defend themselves from dying from a Batman. So that's game phases. Okay, on to outplay potential. This is the one that is where skill comes in, okay? So the first two they don't count skill, okay? If you play a warrior against an assassin, you're going to have an edge just because you played a warrior and they played an assassin. If you play Violet and you get full build, you're going to have an advantage just because you played Violet and you got to full build, okay? But the skill and outplay potential is what really matters. So it's your ability to juke, and there's a few ways people can juke, okay? So juke using iframes. For instance, Murad, Liliana has iframes, Zill has iframes. So the reason iframes matter is because they let you dodge abilities or dodge skills, right? So if, I don't know, example is Natalia ultimates and Zill ultimates, then Zill is not going to take damage from Natalia's ultimate, right? Same thing with Murad. We've all been there where a Murad ultimates and we wish we could target him and we're dead before we have the ability to target him. Okay, so that's invulnerability. Movement abilities, so just dashes, flicker, right? Those just make it easier for you to dodge skill shots. So a lot of heroes, let's think of Liliana. Liliana, all of her skills are aimed. She has a stun, but it's aimed. She has her AoE, but it's aimed, right? So if you have heroes who have a lot of mobility, so like a Nakroth, if you have a Tolan, right? They have built-in kind of mobility flicker type of mechanics, so it makes it a lot easier for them to dodge skill shots. Another place this comes up is Elsu. Elsu obviously needs to land his snipes to be effective, and if you have mobility skills, it's a lot easier to dodge. Okay, so the second thing is skill shots versus guaranteed hits. Skill shots, like we just talked about, are things that you actually have to aim with your fingers and you have to land it on the enemy. Guarantees, Vera is a good example, and if you just click her ability, it is guaranteed to hit. You don't have to aim anything, the enemy just has to be in the circle, you click, they get hit. Okay, so 3, burst versus sustain. So this matters a lot in outplay potential because burst heroes tend to have more outplay potential. And this is the reason why, is because they can kill you very quickly. So if you think about a Murad coming in and he ultimates and kills you in one ult, right? Where is your outplay potential? Like what can you possibly do to dodge that? Well, if you're a hero who has an iframe or some sort of invulnerability, you can click on that, like Arctic Orb, and then you can dodge his big burst. And then once you dodge his big burst, then he becomes vulnerable because he's actually very squishy, so you can hop on him. But at the same time, sustained damage, if you have somebody who has sustained damage, like a marksman, okay, so like let's say a Tel'annas, right? She's just going to auto attack, auto attack, auto attack. Her auto attacks hit very hard, but at the same time, it's just her main source of damage is auto attacks. So if she fights against an assassin, like a Murad or a Kriknak, she's at a disadvantage just because they can jump on her and kill her before she has enough time to get off enough auto attacks to kill them. And that's not even counting iframes and other type things like that. So that's the third thing that determines outplay potential. 4, stuns, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. If you can't move and you get killed before you can even move again, then I mean, there it goes. Another thing about stuns is it's a lot easier to hit skill shots on stun targets. And sorry, there's one other thing I wanted to mention about number 2, skill shots versus guarantees. Skill shots tend to do more damage than guaranteed hits. That is not always true. When it's not true is when you get heroes that are very strong and OP because they have so much damage, yet they take very little skill to play. I think Jinnar is kind of in that area. You don't have to hit anything, so he takes a lot less skill than Liliana does, and by the fact that he takes less micro skill to play lets you focus on other parts of your game. So I think it's easier for a player to be very good on Jinnar than it is for them to be the same level on a Liliana. Okay, so the 5th thing is kiting. So Valheim is a kiting king. There's a lot of other ones, but kiting basically comes down to movement speed and CC. So either a slow, a stun, whatever, right? So Valheim, you can imagine him, he gets faster when he's hitting you, which lets him get away from you. And then at the same time, he has occasional stuns built in there. He also has his skill that's a guaranteed stun built in there. So Valheim can just really, really kite other heroes. When you're kiting, that is another huge source of outplay potential. But to close out this slide, the main point that I'm trying to make to you is that there are heroes who are very boom or bust, meaning if you are great at them, you are just booming. You are on top of the world, you feel like an unkillable god. But on the other hand, if you are not good at them, if you haven't mastered these micro mechanics that we've been discussing, then they are going to be absolute garbage and your team is going to just be crying and typing GG all the time because they got you on their team. Some examples of boom or bust are Murad, Nacroth. A lot of the assassins tend to be boom or bust. Liliana is just good even if you're not hitting everything, but she's, at the same time, she is a god if she's in the hands of somebody who's really good on her and can make use of her iframes. But anyways, that's enough said for that. So that is the theoretical section of this video done. So now let's move on to the heroes. Okay, so on to the actual hero counters. So what I did is I just went over some very common heroes. If you guys like this format, let me know and I can do additional heroes. But I think for today I did, I believe, 7 or 8 heroes that will be in this format. So the format is as follows. The hero we are talking about is in the top left. To the right of them in the writing is the things that they are weak to. And then the bottom 3 heroes are the heroes that I think are good counters to the hero we're discussing. Okay, so Elsu. Elsu is weak to people who can get on top of him and have burst damage, and then also to stuns. The reason he's weak to stuns is because his snipe can actually get interrupted. So say Elsu is channeling his snipe, getting ready to hit, and then all of a sudden Nacroth gets on him and then knocks him up. Well, Elsu's snipe is reset, so he can't even hit Nacroth with that, and then Nacroth is already there. Elsu uses his ult to disengage, but Nacroth has ways to close in on Elsu. So that's one type of hero Elsu's weak to. Liliana, once again, Elsu is sniping. Liliana can actually dodge his snipe quite easily with her form change, and then also she has that iframe, and then she also has a stun. In case he doesn't fire off his snipe right away, she can actually stun him out of it and then drop her damage on top of him. Another thing is, say Elsu tries to snipe and Liliana Reiki shots, you can see how that's going to end up very poorly for Elsu. Illumia is an example of a counter to Elsu, because when Elsu goes to snipe, if Illumia ults, he is going to, once again, he's going to get hit, he's going to get stunned, and he's going to be probably about half health. So that is 3 counters to Elsu. So on to Riktor. Riktor is weak to consistent damage, good sustain, and fast wave clear. So Omen does well against Riktor because Riktor has his invulnerability, so he can avoid burst. That's why heroes who rely on burst are not good against Riktor, assuming they are on the same skill level. But Omen does not rely on burst. Omen just relies on getting into brawls and just kind of brawling it out, and Omen has a lot of sustain because of his lifesteal. So even if Riktor gets poke off on Omen, Omen can actually just sustain through it. Another thing is, Riktor, his mechanics is he basically can poke at you or he can clear the wave quick, but unless you are a bad player and you're standing on top of your wave, he can't clear the wave and you together. Okay, so that's Omen. Marja can dodge Riktor's burst, right? Because she can use her ultimate to get out, and then also when he's doing his burst, he can't be invulnerable, which means he's going to eat damage from Marja's ultimate. And then also she can outrange him with her poke. If Riktor is always going to try to set up in bushes before he dives onto a hero because of the nature of his skills, so Marja can always position away from the bush, and Riktor won't be able to get close enough to her to do the burst damage that he wants to. Another thing about Marja is she has good wave clear because her S1 and S2 are both AoE, and then also she has good sustain, so she has also regen features. And then on to Roxy. Roxy is a little different, and all the 3 counters that I included for all these heroes, hopefully as I go through them you guys understand this, is I tried to show you different mechanics, different styles of countering, right? All 3 of these heroes do not counter Riktor the same way. So Roxy counters Riktor very well based on her ultimate, her strong CC. So Riktor can dodge Roxy's ultimate, right, if he saves it. But at the same time, if he doesn't save it and he gets a poor position and she grabs him, it's almost guaranteed death for him. Okay, and then another thing is Roxy can clear waves very quickly, and Riktor can poke at her, but Roxy has her shield, she also has the fire, and she has really good regen. So because of Roxy's passive, she can regen a lot of her health and a lot of her mana, so it's just hard for Riktor to get her down as low as he wants to get her down, and then if he gets greedy, he's running the risk of getting ulted by her and being killed. So that is Riktor. Okay, on to Omen. So Omen is weak to kind of burst, poke, disengage abilities, and CC. So We talked about Omen being a brawler, so the CC basically lets you, like in Ryoma's case, Ryoma can stun Omen, he can throw out his poke, right, which does quite a bit of not only poke, but it's burst damage, and then he also can jump away when he does a CC. So he not only disengages, but he also stuns Omen. So when Omen wants to go for his life-stealing, brawling when he gets his shield up, Ryoma can actually disengage while stunning him and just get away from that. Marja's kind of on the same thing. She can ultimate and get away from Omen when he's trying to brawl with her, and then she can also poke him from range with her S1, and occasionally S2. S2 is a little riskier to use against Omen. Florentino is just a beast. I don't think... Yeah, I can't think of any hero that can beat him one-on-one. So, yeah, that's enough said for that. Okay, on to Florentino. So, like we said, nobody's going to beat him one-on-one, because he's just, in my opinion, way too OP right now. But if nobody can beat him, the question becomes who can kind of hang with him or tie or just kind of stall out the lane. So Roxy and Marja, we've discussed a lot already in this. They can both clear waves very well. They can disengage from Florentino. Florentino has gap closers, which makes Ryoma not a good choice because he can close onto Ryoma in a way that Omen couldn't. Another thing is Marja, though, can get away with her ultimate again. Roxy, you don't want to chase Roxy. Hopefully everybody knows that. If you're running and chasing her through her fire, you're just not in a good situation. And then Riktor, like we talked about, has his invulnerability in his skill also, which lets him disengage like Marja. Another good thing about Riktor is he has that bursty poke, so he can be in the bush, and then Florentino has to actually be inside the minion wave when he's clearing it, so Riktor can actually dash onto Florentino and the minion wave and kind of clear them and do some chip damage and then invulnerability out. So all three of these heroes, I don't think they beat Florentino in lane, but they don't lose to him, and they shouldn't give up deaths to Florentino. Okay, Quillen. Quillen is weak to CC. Vision, by vision skills, I mean like Elsu and Lindis's skills actually let him be seen even if he's invisible. So Elsu's turrets, for those of you who don't know, do detect invisible heroes. So if a Quillen is invisible and he comes through a turret, he's actually visible to your whole team. Lindis has her S1 to reveal invisible units. And then she also has her traps. So if Quillen runs over one of Lindis's traps, he will also become visible. So those two counter him with the visibility. The CC wise, Lindis has her traps slow, so a Quillen that gets slowed is going to have kind of a harder time. He does have his dash mechanic, like he can gap close, but at the same time, if he's slow, it still does make it a lot harder for him to get on top of people. Another thing about Quillen and Elsu, I was kind of hesitant to put either of them on the counter list for the other one, because Elsu, if Quillen hops on him, Elsu can ultimate back, and if I consider players of the same skill level, I think it's a toss-up. I think whoever's the better player is going to win the matchup. Lindis can just out-kite Quillen flat out, and she has her S1 to make him visible. I am also assuming this type of fight is going to happen around brush. So that Lindis can trigger her passive to run faster. But if Quillen catches Lindis away from a bush so she doesn't have the movement speed, or he catches her with her face checking a bush and not being smart and using her S1 to check the bush first, then Quillen can win. But I'm going to assume, once again, equal skill level and the players playing the hero to the pinnacle of skill. Okay, so Marja, kind of the same as the other heroes, is Marja is an interesting hero is because she's not going to dominate a game, but she's a very good person to not feed over kills and to just kind of poke away. So same thing with Quillen, he jumps on her, she ultimate, she can get away. Her S1 is a slow, so she can actually S1, ultimate, and then get away from him before he can really do too much to her. So that's how that works. Tel'annas, gap closers, burst, and CC. Okay, so Max is, in general, just dominates marksmen, because marksmen tend to be very position oriented. So they need to be in a safe place, they need to get peel because they're very squishy, And if an enemy gets on top of them who has enough damage to kill them quickly, they're going to be in big trouble. So Tel'annas has no mobility. She doesn't, like Violet has a roll, so she can actually get away, and then she, like Violet could roll Flicker, right? Tel'annas has Flicker, but then most likely the enemy champion also has Flicker to match it. And in Max's case, he also has his S1, which makes him take less damage, and then also just stay on top of her the whole time. The less damage matters because she won't be able to kill him before he can kill her. His ultimate also, when he lands on her, no matter where she's positioned, he's going to be able to get on top of her. And then another good thing about Max to keep in mind is because of his passive, if you buy Gilded Greaves, you actually have 60% resistance. So CC is very ineffective on Max. So say Tel'annas does have good peel. She has a teamie or like an Aram or something like that. Just some sort of peel on her team. Even if they try to peel Max, it's going to be very ineffective, and Max is still going to be able to use his S1 to get back on top of Tel'annas. Like, she won't be able to get far enough away in the amount of time the CC lasts. So that's why Max is a good counter. Quillen, he can position because of his invisibility and just basically get close enough, get on her, and then if he does get on her and hits her from the back, he's going to melt her, right? Like maybe 2-shot death, depending how fed he is. So Joker beats her for a different reason. Joker outranges her, and his burst is very strong. So Joker's rocket is very strong burst, and it's actually further than what Tel'annas can do, so he can kind of outburst / poke her. And another thing about Joker is he does have the strong CC with his ultimate, and Tel'annas is a very low health pool. She very much counts on staying away and out of fights, so that's why Joker really hurts her. And I think quite a few, I don't know the exact numbers, but quite a few of the games that Tel'annas lost in ROV Pro League was Joker on the other team. Okay, Lindis, so gap closer, burst, and CC. If you noticed, right, Lindis, Tel'annas, same ones. Are they the same heroes? No, not necessarily. And this is another point I wanted to make. I chose the heroes to display different things. So Max, we discussed, he's just good against marksmen in general, okay? So Violet here, we're going to use, and she's kind of filling the Joker role from the Tel'annas screen, is she can outrange Lindis, and we discussed power curves, and this is the main reason I wanted to show Lindis and Violet. Lindis is strong early and mid game, but for the marksman, she falls off late game because she doesn't scale well with items, whereas Violet scales very well. Both of them are played in the jungle. They are the two predominant jungle marksmen, right? And something to keep in mind when you're playing them, we discussed earlier, is the phases of the game and how they interact with the phases of the game, and then also itemization. So Lindis will win early game against Violet because Violet doesn't have the burst she needs to just melt Lindis. But late game, Violet can just literally one combo Lindis. So if Lindis ever gets within range of Violet, combat roll, shoot, dead. Okay? So that, I wanted to show that dynamic and how that, based on items and based on the game phases, can be very different. Cricknack. So the thing about Lindis that makes her a really good jungler and safe against assassins, where most marksmen struggle against assassins, is that Lindis has good vision. So her S1 lets her get vision, which means she shouldn't get ambushed. Okay, Lindis should never have to face check bush. And she also has her traps. So that means it's very hard for assassins to get on top of Lindis, and then also because of her passive, she can run through bushes and have the speed. So that's another reason that makes it hard for assassins to get on top of her. The reason I put Cricknack is because if he ultimates, it gives him that huge speed boost, and if Lindis does see him, Cricknack can just simply get out, reset, and look for a new opportunity. But if she doesn't see him, he can jump in on her, and he does have huge damage, so he can just burst her down. Another thing is, even outside of his ultimate, Cricknack has his other skill, a mobility skill, another dash to get on top of her. So if he ults on a Lindis, she gets in a bush, starts to run fast, he can still have the time to get his S1, S2 combo in and secure the kill on her. So that is why he is in there. Anyways, that does it. I don't know how many heroes that was, but once again, if you guys like this format, please let me know in the comments, and I can do other heroes. You can also request what heroes you would like me to do these type of slides on, this structure. Let me know if you guys like this structure. Do you like me saying what they're weak at in the heroes, or do you want me to just tell you, like, these are good counter heroes. Anyways, I look forward to your feedback and everything, and once again, I just want to thank everybody who helped me get to 500 subscribers. It means the world to me. I love you all, and anyways, have a great day and happy ranking.